Did you know there is an incredibly elaborate Pink Floyd concept album with an accompanying conspiracy theory and riddle that has rumbled on now for over 30 years? And did you know a prize was promised for solving the riddle that, as far as we know, has still not been claimed? Today, I want to tell you the story of, and in my opinion, the solution to, the Pink Floyd Publius Enigma. In March 1994, Pink Floyd released a fantastic album called The Division Bell, and in the run-up to its release, in press releases and a promotional t-shirt, the band put out an oddly specific promise that Pink Floyd will communicate. And then, 3 months after the album's release on the 11th of June 1994, a series of mysterious cryptic messages appeared on the Usenet newsgroup alt.music.pink-floyd. They were written by an anonymous poster called Publius. They referenced this communication from the band, and the first post said this: "My friends, you have heard the message Pink Floyd has delivered, but have you listened? Perhaps I can be your guide, but I will not solve the enigma for you. All of you must open your minds and communicate with each other, as this is the only way the answers can be revealed. I may help you, but only if obstacles arise. Listen, read, think, communicate." And then we get a line of lyrics from the album. "If I don't promise you the answers, would you go? Publius." The whole series of posts from Publius can be viewed in Appendix H of the Pink Floyd Encyclopedia. But because there's a fair amount to read, there's some repeated material, and there's some stuff addressed to the skeptics on the forum, here I'm just going to focus in on the main parts. The mysterious author, who was routing themselves through an anonymous email server in Finland to remain untraceable, continued, "As some of you have suspected, the Division Bell is not like its predecessors. Although all great music is subject to multiple interpretations, in this case there is a central purpose and a designed solution. For the ingenious person or group of persons who recognises this, and where this information points to, a unique prize has been secreted." But of course, at this point on the forum, skepticism was mounting. Why should anyone believe what this anonymous person was posting? So, in response to all this doubt, on the 16th of July 94, Publius posted this: "To validate the trust of those who believe, as well as to reconcile the doubt of others, I have gone to great lengths to plan the following display of communication. Monday, July the 18th, East Rutherford, New Jersey, approximately 10:30 p.m, flashing white lights. There is an enigma. Trust." This anonymous Publius character said that they would prove they were telling the truth by encoding a secret message into the upcoming Pink Floyd show. And 2 days later, at that gig, this happened. The words Enigma Publius flashed up in white lights, as promised, confirming that this puzzle and prize came from the band. So, now you guys know the basics. Let's start with the first clue that this anonymous hint dropper has given us. The name Enigma Publius that flashed up in that concert. What does that mean? Oxford defines enigma as a person or thing that is mysterious or difficult to understand. And Publius is a Latin word that comes from the word public, meaning of the people. So, to me at least, it seems pretty obvious we can put Enigma Publius together to make mystery person. In another post, Publius wrote, "Let me be clear, for those of you willing to think through this perplexing and intricate problem, a singular prize awaits. But the challenge is accompanied by a particularly complex solution. Lyrics, artwork and music will take you there." So, as we aim to solve this riddle, let's look at the lyrics, music and artwork to see what they tell us. If you listen to the album from start to finish, which I recommend you do, the whole thing does seem to be like a message to one person. And look at what we get on the cover. We've got two heads facing off. Throughout the album art you can see this same theme constantly. On almost every page of the CD insert, there's two faces who are more or less the same, locked in a fight. I wonder if one of these faces represents the mystery person. The album opens with a track called Cluster 1, which is just instrumental, so there are no lyrics to look at. But inside the album cover, each song has its own accompanying artwork. And for the opening song, Cluster 1, we have this, a photograph of a space observatory in Chile. What does it all mean? Well, I think both the title of the song and that picture are a kind of wordplay. This is a picture of 3 observatories designed to look at stars from a distance. And that's what I think this album is. An observation of a star. But not a star in the sky. A rock star. And I think the fact that we have 3 observatories here is also significant because at this point in their history, there were only 3 original members of the band left. And one of them, the rock star Roger Waters, had left. Roger Waters was one of the original members of Pink Floyd before Dave Gilmour joined. The band released their last album with him, The Final Cut, in 1983, after which, due to creative and personal tensions within the band, he left. 1 had left, and 3 remained. I think the title of the opening track alludes to this as well. Cluster 1. Group single. I think you could expand that title out to be The Cluster and The One. Track 2 is called What Do You Want From Me? And here we seem to go straight into an argument between the songwriter, David Gilmour, and the addressee, which, as you know, I believe to be Roger Waters. As you look around this room tonight, settle in your seat and dim the lights. Do you want my blood? Do you want my tears? What do you want? What do you want from me? Who is he talking to? Well, we know it's someone in a musical context by this verse. Should I sing until I can't sing anymore? Play these strings till my fingers are raw. You're so hard to please. What do you want from me? Track 3 is called Poles Apart, and it continues in a similar vein. And do you remember that one of the Publius posts said there were clues within the music itself, not just the lyrics? Well, halfway through this track we get a strange breakdown that sounds very similar to For the Benefit of Mr. Kite, all creepy fairground music. I wonder if the implication here is that their relationship has become a circus. Track 4 is another instrumental, but this time much more mournful and grief-ridden. It's called Marooned, and marooned means being washed up alone, and it's accompanied by this picture in the sleeve, showing the 2 arguing figures, also forming a love heart in the style of prehistoric cave art. Once they loved each other, but that is now ancient history. Track 5 is called A Great Day for Freedom, and it seems, on the surface at least, to be about the fall of the Berlin Wall. We see the newspaper date of November 1989 and a montage of what looks like the London Evening Standard, reporting on the events in Germany. But many Pink Floyd fans have also pointed out that this too is a wordplay, because it's also referring to the Pink Floyd album The Wall, and similar references to other Pink Floyd material occur constantly throughout the album. And here's the other connection confirming that this is tied to Roger Waters. Waters had promised to perform the Pink Floyd album The Wall in Berlin if the Berlin Wall came down. It did, and in 1990 he performed it, but without the rest of the band, as a solo artist. Track 6 is Wearing the Inside Out, and it's yet another song about that same theme of a relationship breakdown, although this time it's part written and sung by Richard Wright. And when you look at the artwork for this one, we see those 2 faces again, but now this time we've got them in extreme close-up. One face is in the light, and the other is all in shadow, with mysterious figures on a TV and a closed door in his metaphorical head. The implication being, one is a crazy conspiracy theorist lost in darkness, while the other one remains in the light. And perhaps this connects to some information that in later years has come out about the relationship between Roger Waters and the rest of the band. In 2023, a film was released called The Dark Side of Roger Waters, on the subject of Roger Waters and anti-Semitism. Roger Waters then went on Al Jazeera and called John Ware, the filmmaker, a lying, conniving Zionist mouthpiece, and accused him of cheerleading the genocide of Palestinians. Ware has sued him for libel, and apparently the case is on its way to the High Court at the time of filming. But there you can see historic allegations of anti-Semitism made against Roger Waters. And at the time of making this album, David Gilmour was shortly to marry his girlfriend Polly Sampson, who is Jewish. In the years after Floyd's final reunion at Live 8, she would go on to call Roger anti-Semitic to his core on Twitter. Here's the full tweet. "Sadly, you are anti-Semitic to your rotten core, also a Putin apologist and a lying, thieving, hypocritical, tax-avoiding, lip-syncing, misogynistic, sick with envy megalomaniac." And David Gilmour would back her up, saying, "Every word demonstrably true." Interestingly, although David Gilmour was the primary songwriter on The Division Bell, did you know that most of the lyrics were actually written by him and Polly? I wonder if there's any evidence in the booklet that Roger's beliefs played a part in his leaving the band. Well, interestingly, the front cover itself shows two people facing off and fighting. We could presume these are Roger and David, and look what we have between them. A distant cathedral, a religious building. Perhaps this is symbolic of the idea that beliefs have come between them. But does this have anything to do with Jewish people specifically? We get just one hint that it might. In the lyrics to the very next song, we get this. "Now I have seen the warnings, screaming from all sides. It's easy to ignore them, and God knows that I've tried." That is the Jewish spelling of God, G-D. This song was written by Gilmour and Sampson, and when you take all the lyrics in context, it seems to be Gilmour saying, "I've got to get her out of this dark environment, or I'm going to lose her." And then, following right on the heels of that sentiment, look what we get. Track 8 is called Coming Back to Life, and the image in the album cover that goes with this track is pretty self-explanatory. He's been washed up from the sea on a new shore and is being resuscitated and brought back to life. It couldn't be plainer. He's been rescued from the waters. Roger Waters. And in this alternate shot, you can see it's a woman rescuing a man from the waters. It's meant to be Polly rescuing David, isn't it? And in the lyrics to that song, we get the impression that David considers his time with Roger like looking out of a window as the rain falls dark and slow, whereas his time with Polly is like staring straight into the shining sun. Track 9 is called Keep Talking, and it's pretty straightforward lyrically. Two people are now estranged. One of them wants to stay in touch, to remain friendly, but the other refuses. And of course, I see this as David wishing he could keep some lines of friendly communication open with Roger. And for the album art for this song, we get that whole 3-in-1 concept again. We have a picture that is simultaneously three things and also one. It's a picture of three monkeys. The traditional Japanese three wise monkeys mean see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. But when you put a mirror down the middle of the picture, it becomes three sad faces and one angry, raging face. This is drawn out much more clearly in the package art to the single High Hopes, where you also discover that it's been designed to fit perfectly over the top of the front cover art. It's all the same message, all the same story. I think this song represents an attempt at reconciliation that was refused. And why monkeys? Well, probably because we have a reference to animals in the lyrics. And Animals is an old Pink Floyd album. Now, there's only 3 animals left. Track 10 is called Lost for Words, and once again, it's the same old story continuing. Another attempt at reconciliation, which is refused. You're wasting your time on your enemies, engulfed in a fever of spite. Beyond your tunnel vision, reality fades like shadows into the night. Can you see your days blighted by darkness? Is it true you beat your fists on the floor? Stuck in a world of isolation, while the ivy grows over the door. So I open the door to my enemies and I ask, could we wipe the slate clean? But they tell me to please go fuck myself. You know you just can't win. You then look at the album artwork, which is a pair of boxing gloves, and down in the audio of this song we have a kind of radio recording of a boxing announcer announcing that someone has been knocked out. That theme of the falling out and the conflict continues through every single song, with each song connecting to the one before and after it. And if you still have any doubts that this is about Roger, we now come to the final song on the album and one of my favourites, High Hopes. The single of this song with its packaging and accompanying music video are all part of the message of the album, and many pictures in the album artwork come directly from the music video to this song. Let's take a look at the lyrics, which function as a kind of retrospective back over everything Roger and David achieved with Pink Floyd. Beyond the horizon of the place we lived when we were young, in a world of magnets and miracles, our thoughts strayed constantly and without boundary. The ringing of the division bell had begun. Along the long road and on down the causeway, do they still meet there by the cut? There was a ragged band that followed in our footsteps, running before time took our dreams away. So we've got lyrics there about the place they grew up in, that was Cambridge, which is featured in the music video, and we also get reference to a ragged band. The lyrics continue, at a higher altitude the flag unfurled, and we reached the dizzy heights of that dreamed of world. In the album art and in the music video, we see what these flags are as they are unfurled. We see one man standing by a vast billowing black flag of darkness, representing, in my opinion, waters, and then three others holding flying multicoloured flags, representing the three remaining band members. And also, look at the shots in the High Hopes music video of this character dressed in black. It's a Roger Waters lookalike. Same hair, same face shape, everything. He looks back at the cathedral, remembering where they came from, and then empties his car of these white balloons with the Pink Floyd logo on them. Those balloons probably represent the young dreams that the band had, which David sings about in the lyrics. And there's another moment in the video with that same message about throwing away childhood dreams, where you see a child throwing a gigantic teddy bear out of a window. That same story of a falling out and a parting of the ways is told in that music video through symbolism, also through the album, through listening to all the songs in order. But that's not all. It's even told in the page numbers in the CD booklet. When you look at them closely, they're almost like a mini comic strip telling exactly the same story in tandem with the tracks. The story seems to open with one of them having been knocked down on his face to the floor. The other one seems to still be upright, looking on. The one on the floor gets up, while the other one looks down on him from an even greater height. They both turn away from each other and go their separate ways. For 3 pages, the head walking away to the right keeps walking. He then turns back for a brief moment, matching the lyrics and the sentiment of that song, but gets punched to the ground once again. And this occurs on the same page as the boxing glove picture to coincide with the same song in which we have a boxing announcer shouting, "It's a knockout." And so the person represented by that head carries on walking away. And to piece this little cartoon strip together, you actually have to use the UK and the US CD release, because in both of them, certain heads have been blacked out. You need them both to put the story together. On the Pink Floyd forum, the person posting as Publius had said people from round the world would need to work together to solve this. That's probably why. And last of all, we come to the album title, The Division Bell. A division is the technical name for a vote in UK Parliament. When the time has come for MPs to cast their votes, a bell, called the division bell, is rung throughout the parliamentary buildings. And so we could kind of make sense of the title of the album in that light. This is an invitation to us, the listeners, to cast our votes. It's almost as if the remaining members of Pink Floyd and Polly are saying, "Who are you with? Roger or us. As Nick Mason said to the Boston Globe in 1994, it's about people making choices, yays or nays. At the very end of the song High Hopes on the album, a bell rings for some time and then fades out. And then the album ends with a brief audio clip of a symbolic phone call. An adult calls, a child picks up. The adult starts to talk, but the child just slams the receiver down. In light of the lyrics we've looked at, where one person is seeking reconciliation and the other tells him to fuck off, I wonder who the child is meant to represent. And that's almost it. Who was the Enigma Publius? Who was the mysterious person this album was about? In my opinion, it's obviously Roger Waters. But what about the prize? In the Publius posts, there was the promise of an actual, tangible prize that could be unearthed in a real physical location, and the clues told people to be ready to travel. I realised that in the posts that have been preserved, there were repeated clues that had been given. And as I read through all the Publius messages, it was on this post that I noticed something interesting. If you just read the capitals, what do you see? They spell out the word marooned. That's the 4th track on the album. And then I read this in the very last post ever from Publius. There is great significance in the page numbers. So I opened the booklet up again and looked through to find what page number marooned was on. It was page 9. And then, at that point, for some reason, something clicked. I realised that in many of his posts, Publius said he would give a clue, and then just quoted a line of lyrics. The clues in the Publius posts were just references to page numbers in the CD booklet. So I began working through the clues and putting them together. I was expecting something like an Ordnance Survey map reference. Here is the first clue. That quote occurs on page 4. Here's the second one. Page 4 again. Here's the third one. Page 7. And at this point, I need to stop because the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed what this string of numbers is about to become. One of the Publius clues said, "What exactly is a division bell, and where could this lead your thoughts?" The answer to that question is the division bell is a physical bell that's rung in Parliament in London. And here we have the UK dialling code 44 and the beginnings of a 1994 London area code. A bell that rings in London, a London phone number. The answer was simple, it was just a string of digits. But there is a reason Pink Floyd went very quiet about the Publius Enigma in the years that followed, and even seemed to downplay it, despite having repeatedly confirmed it came from them in the Division Bell era. Something happened twice that they couldn't have planned for. The UK government changed all the London phone numbers twice in the next 6 years. So if you work through all these clues and assemble something you think might be the number, do me a favour and don't call it, because you'll probably get through to some random person in Grimsby. In 1995, a 1 was added between the O and the 7. In 1997, 07 began being used for mobile phone numbers, and then, in 2000, all London numbers changed to 02. And any hope whatsoever of claiming the mysterious prize through the phone number was officially gone. As I studied this, I'd wondered how on earth Pink Floyd were intending to do this if it was real. You just couldn't have Pink Floyd fans from Mexico, Australia and Japan descending on Cambridge with shovels. There's almost nowhere in this country you can legally start digging up the ground anyway, unless you're a workman or you personally own the land. But a phone number, anyone can use. The next step that seemingly no one ever reached was to ring that number, possibly key a code in on the other end, and then the next step of the puzzle would be revealed. But as far as we know, no one ever did it. Another reason I think this is the flashing lights at the East Rutherford gig in New Jersey were not the only confirmation the band gave that this had come from them. A Publius post also warned in advance that there would be a further confirmation at Earl's Court, and there was. The word Enigma appeared upon the screen. There was also a remastered, re-released version of their album, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, on minidisc, in which the words Publius and Enigma had been added to pictures within the booklet. But if you buy that album today, the words are nowhere to be seen. And if you buy the live DVD Pulse, you'll also find now the reference to Enigma on the screen has been edited in post, so it says E equals MC squared. I genuinely think this could be the reason Pink Floyd always downplayed it and afterwards seemed to try to erase it. And also, they probably didn't want to be implicated in some random British citizen suddenly getting bombarded with phone calls on their mobile from overzealous Pink Floyd fans having cracked the code, trying to claim some mysterious, unspecified prize. In April 2005, after all the numbers had been changed, Nick Mason said this: "That was a ploy done by EMI. They had a man working for them who adored puzzles, and suggested that a puzzle be created that could be followed on the web. The prize was never given out. To this day it remains unresolved. The prize was something like a crop of trees planted in a clear-cut area of forest, or something to that effect. It was not to be a prize of some tangible thing, but rather a touchy-feely sort of gift that was more a sort of philanthropic thing than something you could hang on the wall." And of course, in this era, the whole band would all say similar things whenever asked about it. At the time, however, in the mid-90s, they were a lot less cagey. And so, on that note, the last thing I want to share with you is from a 1995 article in the New York Times. I don't know who the person who posted the Publius clues was, but if I had to make an educated guess, I would find this article very interesting. The only one who had hinted at mysteries on the album was David Gilmour. When asked about the unusual sounds on the record, like atmospheric radio noise and a phone conversation between his manager and the son of his girlfriend, Mr. Gilmour said, "I like puzzling people." When asked whether certain songs were about the group's former leader, Roger Waters, he answered, with an elusive smile, "Are they? You'll just have to work it out for yourself." But I reckon I've more or less cracked it there. So, David Gilmour, where's my reward? I'd happily settle for £1 million, and yes, I do take cash. But, all joking aside, what do you think? Have I got this right? Or is it actually all about something else? Do you think I have solved it, in as much as it can be solved? Or are you one of those who think the whole thing was just a very, very clever marketing ploy to get people to repeatedly listen to and study the album, thereby turning it into a classic? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. David Gilmour, if I got that right, I look forward to my whopping check in the post. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time. I've recently also posted a Patreon-only exclusive video called the Oasis Codes Part 2. So, if you would be interested in checking that out, the link to my Patreon is in the description. And, as always, a massive thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. If you would be interested in joining up to get credited at the end of videos and to gain access to exclusive bonus content, go check out the link in the description and hopefully I'll see you inside.